What we know from sex research, and you might know and your listeners might know, sorry if I'm preaching to the choir, but we now have new ways of measuring arousal and desire.
Preach.
Okay, so I'll tell you about it just because it's really cool. Because this book, UNTRUE, very quickly became a look at female non-monogamy across culture and species, but it really became like a Valentine to these female scientists who have been changing things in their fields and changing our understandings of who women are sexually and socially. So this really cool therapist, Canadian, named Rosemary Basson, had been taught that men were naturally more sexual than women. They just are. She was taught in her training. And, men's libidos were higher than women's libidos, okay? So she was a couples therapist doing her thing, and she noticed something, which is that the women, their levels of desire and arousal were as high as the men's, but they happened a little bit differently. Okay, so there's this model, this Masters and Johnson model of sexuality that sex researchers were taught for decades, that you just suddenly feel desire, right? This is the equivalent of like being what you would call a horny person walking around like, wow, I feel horny, I want to have sex.
Yeah. Which like women say if they get a testosterone shot, they suddenly understand. They're like, I want to fuck anything that moves. And they're like, whoa, what's going on, right? So you can almost think of it sometimes as a way that like a lot of testosterone might make you feel.
So, yeah, I mean, Sari Van Anders does really great work on testosterone and is kind of refining our views of that. But you're, absolutely to this point that some people just walk around feeling turned on a lot of the time and want to have sex. So we call that spontaneous desire.
Yes.
It just comes over you like you want a cheeseburger all of a sudden or whatever. Or like, you're just walking around, you're thinking, I'm horny. Like, can I find somebody to have sex with? Okay, we used to only measure spontaneous desire. And when we did only measure spontaneous desire, men were up here and women were more down here. Yeah. And then sex researchers like Marjorie Basson, she said, these women are experiencing desire. It's just a little bit different. Same thing, same libido, same like impetus to have sex. But I'm going to call it responsive desire. And it happens, my friend Emily Morse, the great podcaster of Sex with Emily and a sexologist, says, she has said in conversation and when we did a podcast together, she said, I'm not a horny person. I never was. I never walked around the world feeling that way. But she said, if I'm, with somebody and they start to give me a massage or they touch my arm, it's on.
Yeah.
That's responsive desire.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful metric of desire as well. And when we measure responsive desire, it goes from this. Here's men's spontaneous desire. Here's women's spontaneous desire. Now let's measure responsive desire. Whoa, here women are. Now let's measure women's desire and arousal reported at certain phases of their menstrual cycle. Okay, now we have it's more like this sometimes. Okay, why does it matter? Why does the difference between spontaneous desire and responsive desire matter? Why does it matter that Meredith Chivers developed an instrument where we can now actually measure responsive desire? It matters because think of all the people feeling like shit. Think of all the men feeling that they're not enough because they don't desire their partner, male, female, identifies as neither, right? They don't desire them enough. Their partner's libido's more than theirs. Then they think, I'm not a man. What's wrong with me? Think of all the women who walked around thinking, and women would tell me this all the time. They were always telling me, well, you could interview me, but like I'm a freak. Like I have a really high libido. I really struggle with monogamy. And when enough women tell you that they're freaks over and over and over, you're hearing this, you realize that we really have to redefine what's normal for female sexuality. So the first part of this was these awesome sex researchers discovering responsive desire in this more circular model of desire. Instead of like get aroused, have sex, done. It was more like, start having sex or start being touched or look at something that reminds you of sex with somebody. Oh, I remember when so-and-so fucked me from behind on this white blanket, right? Mm-hmm. And this white fuzzy great carpet you have on the floor. Then it's on.
Yeah.
Why does it matter? Because it sets women and men free. All these women coming to me saying there's something wrong with me, my libido's too high. They need to understand this social science so that they know how profoundly normal they are. So that is one of the biggest myths. And you know what? I was at this conference called STAR. It's the Society for Sex Therapy and Research. And this wonderful rock star named Dr. Meredith Chivers, also Canadian, like Rosemary Basson, something in the water, I don't know what. And she got up and talked about how when we measure responsive desire correctly, we can't assert anymore that men's libidos are stronger than women's.